In this fifth and final part in the Battlefield 1 Good to Great series, we are going to tackle the topic of a single player campaign. Battlefield 1 can distinguish itself as a truly great game if it takes advantage of the single player opportunity that the World War I theme provides. Prior to the modern, futuristic takeover of the FPS market over the course of this past decade, many of the popular games involved a World War II setting and contained well-developed, single-player campaigns. Think back for a moment to the old Medal of Honor games on PS1 and PS2. Or how about the original Call of Duty games, Big Red 1 or Call of Duty 3 in particular? And who could forget the tear-provoking story of Matthew Baker in the Brothers in Arms series? Because these games had no or very limited multiplayer functions, the developers of these games put many of their marbles in the single-player campaigns. Aside from the actual gameplay, each of these games created an immersive and incredible gaming experience through masterful soundtracks and riveting stories. These games were full-blown dramas that rivaled some of the greatest war movies, and could even stand alone as independent and award-winning productions in my mind. But the one element that made these classic single-player campaigns great was that they were built from a base which was rooted in reality. Real weapons, real soldiers, real divisions, real theaters of war, real tragedies, real loss, real suffering, real struggles for good and evil, real triumph, and real victory. This quintessential element of historical realism gave these campaigns a degree of immersion and emulation that even the best written fiction struggled to encapsulate and convey. Do you remember when we were placed in the landing crafts as we awaited to storm Omaha Beach to liberate Europe from the tyranny of the Nazis, watching the fellow soldiers cry, pray, and toss up their guts, anxiously awaiting their certain death in Medal of Honor frontline? Can you forget when we witnessed the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, watching sailors drown as the ironclad hulls of their battleships were ripped apart by Japanese torpedo and kamikaze attacks in Medal of Honor Rising Sun? Or how about when we joined Matthew Baker through Operation Market Garden and the grueling gauntlet of Hell's Highway and Brothers of Arms? What about fighting through the Battle of Stalingrad, where over 2 million soldiers lost their lives, as we mirrored the famed Soviet sniper Vasily Zaitsev in Call of Duty World at War? By rooting these single-player campaigns in real historical experiences, the players have the opportunity to immerse themselves into a fiction that feels real and purposeful. The fact that you defeat the Nazis in Call of Duty World at War mattered. The fact that you lost Allen and Garnett in Brothers of Arms mattered. The fact that your team had to pull out of Somalia in the Black Hawk Down game really frustrated you and mattered. But in Advanced Warfare, for example, the fact that you stopped the ambitions of some private military contractor in a futuristic fictional America really doesn't matter. Because these single-player campaigns are based in reality and are spun from a real historical context, the players become more perceptive to the characters and themes of the story. With this, the lessons of bravery and courage, brotherhood, sacrifice, etc. are made real, and the player is more easily brought to a state of emotion and reverence. The tragedies and triumphs of warfare are felt with a completely different degree of gravity, sincerity, and purpose when single-player campaigns are based in reality when compared to those based in fiction. I'm not by any stretch saying it's impossible to evoke this sort of emotional catharsis with a single-player campaign based in a modern or futuristic context. For example, in Modern Warfare 2, watching Ghost get betrayed and seeing his dead corpse be tossed into the flames as you take your final breath was indeed moving and very theatrical. But I don't think the tragedy of Ghost or the eventual triumph of the United States over a fake Russian invasion in Modern Warfare 2 comes close when compared to the tragedies and triumphs of real conflicts that were depicted in Brothers in Arms or even the old Call of Duty games. It is then this essential element, the existence of a real and historical context, that is lacking in the single-player campaigns of late. A Hans Zimmer soundtrack, amazing graphics, and an interesting fiction plot that throws the entire world into a sudden struggle for survival can only reach a certain degree of brilliance. In my mind, a single-player campaign derived from a real historical context can elevate a single-player campaign to a whole new level of brilliance which is completely beyond the reach of fiction. Modern games can get close to it, but futuristic games seem to struggle even more. For example, the Call of Duty Modern Warfare series was at least based in a reality that I guess could happen. But for science fiction games like Advanced Warfare or even some of my favorites like Halo, you are dealing completely in fiction. The emotions experienced are not untrue in any way, but they are completely manufactured from an imaginative plot created in some guy's head. Star Wars is a great example of this. Star Wars teaches us the great lessons about pride, inordinate desire, and most importantly, the rise and fall of individual men, and consequently, the rise and fall of entire political systems. While I love Star Wars, these lessons feel much more closer to our hearts when they are brought down from the stars and placed into the context of our own history. I promise you, get involved in the study of Greek or Roman history, and you will see what I mean. Furthermore, the trend seems to be that some games are even moving to completely ignore single-player campaigns altogether. Some modern games, like Star Wars Battlefront, don't even include a single-player campaign. This is extremely disappointing because to me, it just shows laziness on behalf of the developers. Nobody seems to care about writing a compelling story anymore. Everyone just seems to care about bigger guns, bigger graphics, more frames per second, more teeth, but no bite. It's like game developers are piling together a chest of shiny plastic gems to give to the gamers instead of giving them one purposeful, meaningful diamond, for example. Battlefield 1 is in a unique position to use World War I to create a single-player campaign that is both meaningful and real. There are so many great battles with thousands of stories for the developers at DICE to tell. The Battle of the Marne, the Battle of the Somme, Verdun, Gallipoli, Belleau Wood, and many more. There is so much material from DICE to pull from to craft a masterful, single-player campaign story. In the end, I would just like to emphasize that the power of storytelling is great, and in video games, this maxim is no less true. Through a good story, you have the power to instill in people certain lessons. And in the case of World War I, there are so many great lessons about the martial virtues such as courage, sacrifice, and brotherhood that could be impressed upon the minds of the players if DICE takes the time to put a good story and single-player campaign together. And that's all we have for today, everyone. Thank you all for listening, and this video will conclude the Battlefield 1 Good to Great series. On your way out, make sure you subscribe to our channel, smash that like button, and join the discussion in the comments below. This is The Other Club. See you all next time.